Great, you guys. So I'm a little worried that today's lesson will feel out of place, and I really like to have everything be really cohesive and coherent. But I promise that in the big scheme of things, when we start putting all the pieces together next week, when we start helping you build and execute a plan to let it play out, that all of the pieces will start to come together. So even if this seems a little disjointed, bear with me, stick with me. So we have talked about letting our kids own the problem of arguing. That if we're getting involved, that we are taking ownership of it and that we are robbing them of the opportunity to learn and to grow and to practice new skills and to experience the natural consequences of the choice to argue with each other or to be violating your boundaries. So I just wanted to talk today a little bit about consequences to put your mind at ease, answer some questions, and then next week we're going to start putting all the pieces together. So a question we get asked a lot is it okay to let our kids experience consequences? I'm going to shoot straight and say that we live in a day and age of positive parenting, and there is so much that we love about positive parenting. But some people have taken that to the extreme of, I can't give my kids consequences, I can only give them positive reinforcement. We do not believe this, nor does decades of research. So, what the research has shown after 50 years of research, so positive discipline and just giving positive reinforcement is new, and there's a lot of powerful and good in it, but we are ignoring a lot of the research. So the research that shows what helps our kids develop the best, have the best grades, be the healthiest in their relationships, make more money, stay married longer, all sorts of different things, is that we need to have limits and then we need to have consequences when those limits are not honored. So we need to have boundaries and then let our kids experience the natural consequences for crossing those boundaries. And that all of this needs to be done with love. So these are the recipe pieces if you want a delicious outcome. So if you were to make cookies and you weren't following the recipe and instead of flour you put in dirt, you would not get a good outcome. So if you want the sweet taste of a happy family, then we need to follow this recipe, which has been proven decade after decade after decade. So when we're talking about consequences with our kids, we are not talking about punishment. And this is kind of a new concept to you guys. And so bear with me as I explain something new. So a punishment is when we do something to make our child hurt in result of their action. So if they make a sad choice, we put them on timeout every time. So that's the 1, 2, 3 magic model. They make a sad choice, they end up on timeout. Something else that a lot of parents will do because they're doing the best that they can, so no shame or judgment from our standpoint, is their child will do something wrong and the parent takes away screens or will spank the child or will ground them. Just something that makes them hurt in like a vindictive way or a don't do this anymore to avoid this uncomfortable outcome kind of way. Now, consequence, if you look at the root word and you're looking at the Greek, it actually means the natural inference or the logical conclusion or the thing that follows nature and the course. Like if you were to take this course, it is the natural outcome of it. So if I eat really, really healthy, the natural consequence of that is that my body feels good. If I eat sugar all day, the natural consequence of that is that I can't poop and I feel like crap. Okay, so those are the natural outcomes. So when we are talking about consequences with your kids, we are talking about letting them experience the natural outcome because what it does for them. So the way that the brain is wired is that it needs to experience things repeatedly before it remembers it. The first time the brain experiences something different, it's like somebody traveling in the jungle with no path. Now, if you go on that path over and over and over and over again, that path becomes worn, it becomes easy to travel, say you start to lay some pavement on it, that path becomes very, very easy. So what we want to do with our kids and they're arguing or anything is to let them experience the cause and the effect, the cause and the effect over and over and over and over again. So it is wearing a pathway in their brain that starts to tell their brain, if I do this, then this happens. This natural conclusion happens. So for me, when it comes to the siblings squabbling, I want to get involved and force them to do some conflict resolution, make them get along, figure out who was wrong, and punish the person who was wrong. Like these are my natural inclinations to do all of these things. But if we step out of the way and we create a situation where they're arguing with their sibling and it means that their sibling blows up at them, then that is a cause and effect pathway being laid in their brain. And if we stay out of the way and they see over and over again that if I bug my sibling and bug my sibling and bug my sibling, every time it leads to some sort of uncomfortable outcome for me. It results in them yelling at me or them punching me or them slamming the door on me or them not wanting to play with me. So if we back off and we let them experience that over and over again, we are really laying that pathway for them. Now, another cause and effect is if I argue around mom, it wears her out, and then we have to do chores for her. And every time we argue around her, we have to do chores for her because she's tired from our arguing. When we let that cause and effect happen over and over again, they're going to start to learn. Is this instantaneous? No, it's not. And that's what's hard sometimes when we're working with parents is they want immediate results. They want like that quick fix because that's what we live in right now. This is not immediate, but when it makes sense, it is long lasting. Believe me, we are experiencing the result of following this process and trusting it in so many areas of our life. And we are seeing long lasting results that we never thought possible. So we are trusting the process and backing out and letting our kids experience the cause and the effect of arguing with each other while having our own boundaries that we don't have to listen to it. We don't have to be a part of it. We don't have to be bothered by the contention of it. But if you choose to, then you get to experience the natural consequence. So let me drive this message home a little bit more. This cause and effect, this choice and consequence thing is so important. We want our kids to become happy, healthy adults who are good at interpersonal relationships, who know how to get along with their siblings, who can work through the conflict, who can compromise, who can speak their truth, who can emotionally regulate when they're bothered by their sibling. We want them to do all of those things. Are those things easy? How are those things going for you? How is it going in your adult relationships? Do you still find it complex and difficult to get along with the adults in your life? The chances are the answer is yes. If you're anything like me, the answer is yes. So this is the case. And it's kind of like this analogy that you have never done a dot to dot in your entire life, and then somebody gives you the dot to dot on the left that has, it goes up to 1,000, and they say, what's this picture? They don't give you any explanation on how to figure out what it is. And you would look at it, or this person who's never done the dot to dot, and just say, I don't know. And what if they didn't even know how to count? Then that would be a major problem. They would never be able to figure out what this picture is. And that is what interpersonal relationships and how to be a healthy adult is like. It's like a complex dot to dot without any instructions really on how to do it. And you're trying to figure it out and you can't make the image turn out the way that you want to, even though you're trying the best that you can. So what happens when we use natural consequences, we back off and we do not rescue our kids from them and we let them experience them over and over again when it comes to sibling arguing, is that they're going to start to connect some dots in their mind. They're going to start to see every time I bother my brother, something uncomfortable happens to me. Every time I argue around my mom, my workload goes up. Every time I I choose not to compromise and I choose not to hear the other person, it doesn't work out well. And you will offer them an opportunity to learn different skills. You will model different skills. And so, what we're hoping that they'll learn, and we'll talk about this more next week, is oh, if I am flexible, then things work out better with my sibling. We get along better and we play better. Oh, when I emotionally regulate instead of punching everybody when I'm mad, then I am able to have a better relationship with them. So we're hoping that they start to connect the dots of when I use the negative tools, I get negative outcomes. When I use the positive tools, I get positive outcomes. So that is really the reason why we are so committed to teaching the consequences, because we want to connect the dot to dot. Now, some people are still uncomfortable with consequences, but let us say to you that this empowers your kids not just to have healthier relationships with their siblings, but this empowers them for life. Once they see and they recognize in their mind, holy smokes, I am in control of the outcome of my life. I am not just a victim of the circumstances, but if I want certain results, all I need to do is take certain actions. Yes, I know that life doesn't always work that way. We can do our very best and still things can blow up and our life can be a dumpster fire. That's a separate issue. But we want to empower our kids to see that they are at the helm of the ship of their life. And that if they want to go a certain direction, they can stand up and they can grab that helm and they can guide it in that way. If they want a good relationship with their sibling, they can make that happen. It's not mom who's going to make it happen. It's not my brother's job to make it happen. It's mine. I can make that happen. And this belief, how much can it help them in their schooling, in their work, in their relationships, in their mental and emotional health? Like, this is huge. So, your kids fighting with each other is actually giving you a huge opportunity to help them get this, to help them start to connect dots, to help them feel empowered and not a victim in their life. So, we want you to remember that the owner of the choice is the owner of the consequence, and that this is going to connect all the dots. Now, while you are letting your kids experience consequences, this is not to sit back and be like, I told you so, you little brats. Actually, what we want to do is offer them empathy. To be able to communicate in our actions and our demeanor and our words, you're learning and you're growing. You're going to struggle with your siblings. That's normal and it's tough, but you've got this. This communicates to them that the behavior wasn't okay, but they are okay. They are worthy of love and it's safe to make mistakes in your home. Now, another thing that we see parents do when trying to give a consequence is engaging in a power struggle with the consequence. So if you say, hey, that was exhausting and now you need to do a chore for me, and then the child will be like, I'm not going to do a chore for you. And then a parent would get in and be like, no, you are going to do the chore for me. You have to do that. And that's like two people fighting over a steering wheel in a car. It's not going to end well. So if your child refuses to do what you've asked, then you've got to come around again and think, how can I make that a problem for them instead of for me without engaging in any sort of power struggle? So if that were the case with my son, then everything with the power button would just magically disappear and be held in collateral until he was ready to do the thing that I asked him to do. So it's not a problem for me. I'm not engaging in a power struggle, and he's seeing that my boundaries will just be firm, but I'm not going to fight you about it. Okay, top mistakes we see parents make with consequences. Okay, I don't know why that didn't work. giving it in anger or retaliation. This leads to power struggles and relationship ruptures. Avoiding giving the consequence out of fear or fatigue. This actually reinforces the negative behavior. This tells your child, hey, I can actually get away with this, so let's keep doing it. The next is choosing a punishment instead of a connected consequence. You lose all of the learning opportunity in this. The connecting dots, the building those pathways in their brain, it just loses it. Another thing we see parents do is ending the consequence before the behavior changes. So say that I said, hey, I was really exhausted and now you need to do a chore for me. And they did that. And then the next time there was something else and they argued again and you didn't have that same consequence or something like that. But you were like, oh, I already did it that one time um, and it didn't work. And so I'm just going to be done. No, 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 no. Stick with it until you see the behavior change. The last thing is that we see parents taking ownership instead of giving it to the child. So we encourage you not to make any of those mistakes. All right, that was a little bit longer today, but that is going to set us up for next week. We are going to walk you through making a plan to start to put into place when your kids are arguing around you so that you know how to handle it and you aren't just like waffling around with these tools, kind of lost as to what to do. We're going to put it all together over the next couple of days in the next week so that you really can implement this and drive it home.